businesses actually only want two very simple things. They want a fair and level playing field to trade upon, and they want stability.
Viewers and listeners, welcome to another episode of the Sunrise Corner Shop podcast. Today I'm at Conservative Campaign Headquarters with Kevin Hollinrake MP, who's the chairman of the Conservative Party. I just wanted to give you an insight. It's not going to be a major political interview today. It's just a conversation that we're going to be having to give you an insight what it means for somebody becoming an MP, then becoming a chairman of their party for one of the major political parties. Well, you can say the most successful political party in the world, they say. So, Kevin, welcome.
Great to be here, Tony. Thank you for inviting me.
And, you know, like I said, I want to give people an insight. Being a chairman, you're obviously a member of Parliament. You're the chairman of the party. We'll go back and forth or flip between your journey. But let's start with, what does being a chairman of a political party or the Conservative Party, because that's the role you're holding, what does it entail?
Well, really, you can look at it like a large marketing department for a business. That's the best way to look at it. Really, it's about communication. Campaign headquarters, campaigning. You can have the best policies. You can have the best leader. You can have in business terms, you can have the best goods, the best services. But if nobody's ever heard of them, nobody's ever going to buy them or vote for them. So it's our job here to try and make sure we have an effective campaigning machine that communicates well with the voting public. That's what it's all about. So in this place, we have our media team, we have our social media team, we have our candidates team, we have our research teams, we have fundraising, we have field campaigning, all those things in this umbrella. But 150 people work in CCHQ, either in here or in the field. So you really, it's a communication business we're in.
Yep.
We've got a fantastic leader, which I know we're probably going to talk about, but
Yep.
we've got to make sure people hear her.
Yep.
And that's really the job. And there's lots of little things involved as well.
Yep.
You got to sort one or two things out from within the party, but principally it's a communications thing.
I know it used to also fall under the remit of the chairman in terms of the candidates department, candidates list, future people who want to engage
Yep.
in politics and potentially become members of parliament like yourself. Does that still fall under the remit of?
It absolutely does. So we've got, clearly want to make sure we've got good candidates. I mean, there's two things happening in the world of politics. Well, in any world, actually, if you're trying to communicate your message, you've got your kind of air campaign, which is your high-level messaging, your adverts, your social media stuff, and then you've got your ground campaigning. So out there knocking on doors, on Facebook, being in the locality, council candidates, parliamentary candidates, mayoral candidates.
Yeah.
So we select the MP candidate, the parliamentary candidates and the mayoral candidates effectively helped by this office, and the council candidates.
Yeah.
So, and we want good people. We want good Conservatives to come forward. So I'm delighted to say we've got over 1,000 people already who have joined our newly opened parliamentary candidates list.
Yes.
So if you've got people, your listeners, your viewers, interested in standing as a Conservative Member of Parliament, we want to hear from them. Really do, particularly if you've got a background in something. We don't want just political backgrounds. I mean, some people like that are okay, but business background or medicine, military, whatever it is, we want people with really relevant experience of the real world that can be good candidates for the Conservative Party.
Yeah, I was smiling earlier when you started off also, Kevin, because I felt like saying, maybe I should, I know you've got a really important job. You're the kind of person I'd want to. It's almost a pitch that I give to my clients when they ask me. I've said, I'm in the communications business.
Totally.
We're in media. Our job is to communicate, get the message out there.
Yeah.
You want to advertise your business. You want to tell them why you're so wonderful and why people should use your service or buy your product. And you're absolutely right. Why should a political party be any different? So basically, there you go, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of the positioning of the role of a party chairman. It's all-encompassing of running the machinery for the party, which keeps it ticking over. So it's the professional side of running the party.
Very much so. Very much so.
Okay. Now, a bit about you, Kevin, because I want people to understand that it's not just another person sitting here who is going to be giving political answers, because, like you said, the Conservative Party, your party, has already built up a 1,000-strong applicants list of people potentially want to be the next generation of parliamentarians, councillors, or mayors. What made you come into politics, and what is your background? You know,
I came into politics because it's important. You know, it's there's so much of what we do, the way our family, 4 kids. I think about the future for them, and there's so much we need to get right. There's many things we've got right already, but we've got some fundamental things wrong we need to fix. So that's why I came in, because I think it's important. It's not for everybody, but it is for anybody. And I went to a local comprehensive school, local state school, that kind of stuff. But my parents, my dad was a milkman, mum was a social worker, but my sister was studying politics. She was a bit older than me, so we used to debate this stuff around the dining room table. Yeah. And so I got the bug really when I was a teenager, thinking this stuff's important. But I wanted to go off and do something else first, and I went into business, and quite a few mishaps along the way in terms of businesses that didn't go right, all to do with myself. But I learned a lot from those early forays into business. But then I started a business in 1992, which ultimately was successful. And it's really the experiences I had through that about how to get things done, of course. That's the primary skill you need in business. But also some of the obstacles that were in everybody's way was in business, and really trying to make sure in the world of politics we have strong voices, experienced voices from the world of business, because ultimately business actually pays for everything else. And the person who said this the most eloquently is, of course, Winston Churchill. And he said, some people see private enterprise as a tiger that needs to be shot. Some people see it as a cow that they can milk. Few people see what it really is, and that's a strong horse that pulls the whole cart. And if you think about it, all the taxes derived from business through corporation tax and business rates and things, VAT, and all the taxes their employees pay, that's the only bit of the economy that actually generates net taxes that pay for all the public services. So it's vital that we make life as easy as possible for business people to start up and scale up.
No, thank you for that, Kevin. So you had a successful business, and I agree with many of the points that you've actually raised. And that business, it could be anything, but it happened to be in the estate agency business, and you scaled that up. And then, if you don't mind me asking, at what stage did you think, okay, I've done my bit, I've done okay actually, I want to give it back to society? Because you've been in Parliament, I think 10 years, right?
That's 11 years this year.
11, yeah.
So, I thought it was the right time. I did try in 2007-8, but our business got hit badly by the recession.
Yeah, it's all that time.
By the financial crisis, the business nearly went under, so I had to step back and get the business back on its feet. Yeah. So it was 2014, really, I got back into a position where I could do that again. Our business at that point in time, we started a single office. It's called Hunters, the business. Yeah. So we'd grown to about 150 offices by that time. Which we got badly hit in 2008-9. The business grew and grew, and we had a great time doing it. We loved all that. But back then, I thought, okay, if the business can now stand on its own 2 feet, I was chief exec. I found a guy called John Waterhouse. I was chief exec then. I became chairman. Glynis, my sister, actually took over, the lady who inspired me to go into politics in the first place. Right. She as chief exec, and then so I became chairman, and I was chairman until we sold that in 2021. We floated in 2015, the same year I came into Parliament. Oh, brilliant. So we sold that in 2021. And I've had a couple of other businesses too along the way. 1 or 2 not successful, but we had a prop tech business that was very successful too. So, it's a wonderful world, the world of business, but it's tough. Yeah. I would say we had great times, we had tough times, but we had no bad times. That's what I reflect on.
Yeah. I mean, you've spoken about your journey. You've spoken about the party that you represent, the Conservative Party. It's always, called itself the party of business,
Absolutely
all types of business, small business, big business. And a wonderful quote from Winston Churchill you just shared there. When I speak to businesses these days, they just feel that they're totally under attack. And I want you to give an opportunity, Kevin, because I know the current government, their answer was austerity, higher tax burdens, but the current government seem to be on a fast lane of even higher tax burdens, larger welfare state. The question I want to have and give a politician, a senior politician, an actual opportunity to answer is, why did those under the Conservative Party, when they were in government, were there increases in taxation? Because for me, as a businessman, and my business fell through the cracks through the pandemic, I think people almost kind of forget the billions the country had to spend in order to keep society in check in some ways. Because I can imagine if there wasn't the furlough schemes and the helping business schemes and all the rest of it, there would have been absolute carnage on the streets of the UK or any other country.
Oh, totally. Totally.
So I just want you to be able to give an explanation, because sometimes politicians aren't actually given a real opportunity to explain.
Well, it's kind of you to do that, and we are the party of business. When I looked, my dad, Milton, as I said before, he encourages all to go into business, we work for ourselves. So, when I started in business, actually in 1992, I was in financially dire straits. Really difficult time. Things hadn't gone well for me. I lost my job and kind of stuff, and it was 92. Things were really tough, but I always had the belief that with conservative principles about hard work, about opportunity, about self-reliance, all those kind of things, that I could get on and build something in my life and raise a family, and I did eventually. Business, then bought a house, and had 4 kids, that kind of stuff. So I truly believe that, and I believe that to this day. Now we believe in low tax. That's so true, but we had to put taxes up towards the end of the last Parliament because of COVID. I mean, there are some real demographic pressures in the UK, because we're all living longer, and it's very costly. Pensions, welfare, social care, healthcare. So it's not easy to cut taxes in that kind of environment. But nevertheless, that's our natural instinct to do that. So we cut corporation tax all the way down to 19%. Now, you may rightly say, well, you put up corporation tax in your last 2 years. Yes, we did. And the reason is we put £500 billion of taxpayers' money into the economy, into businesses, to keep them afloat and keep people in jobs. If you remember, back in 2008-9, 2 million people added to the ranks of the unemployed in that recession. There was no support from the government whatsoever. Back in the COVID period, 2020, 2023, and further, we put this we wanted to make sure that didn't happen again. So we say, by doing so, we prevented millions of people being made unemployed, and probably about 500,000 businesses stopped from going bust. That's what happened. Now, £500 billion, it's taxpayers' money. It's not my money. It's not the government's money. They haven't got any money. In fact, it's massively in debt. So we've got to get that money back. Now, you could argue that was a wrong decision, and Rishi was in Prime Minister there, very good friend of mine, Rishi, and I said to him one day, "You are so popular." You remember he was Chancellor. "You are so popular, Rishi. Everybody's going to love you forever." He said, "Well, it's going to be challenging because I am not going to spend money without getting it back, and I've got to make some difficult choices." And he did. Now, people might say that was a wrong decision, and you can argue that all day, but it was because to pay back the money, the taxpayers' money that we had borrowed. That's why we did it.
Look, like I said to you, I ran a business, and my business fell through the cracks. And sometimes there will be some people fall through the cracks. But I was never down about it. I just wanted to know that somebody, is there or listening.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Rishi there, Kevin. One of my low moments in my office through COVID, remember writing a note to him as the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Me and him had bumped into each other over the years a few times. I wrote a note to him, and he, kind enough, responded to that.
Did he really?
To that email.
Great man.
And you know what? Even though it fell through the cracks, it felt like I wasn't alone.
Yeah.
And I think that's, that was part of, the importance. But the reason I wanted to ask you that question was, it's always been labelled as, a law and order, low tax party. And I know it keeps being pushed back that, look what the Conservatives did at the end of the last Parliament. But like I said, it's like something that's just disappeared at the back of the sofa, that we had this great big once in a lifetime or several lifetimes situation, a thing called a pandemic. I hope we never see one of those again. Where a lot of people, lost families, loved ones and friends, and it was a financially very stressful time for many people.
It was.
But the government took decisions, and you don't have a crystal ball. But like you said, and as per your conversation with the former Chancellor at the time, who went on to become Prime Minister, you have to pay back eventually. It's like sending out a bank loan. They're keeping the country afloat, but the country need that money back at some stage.
It does. I mean, I'm sorry you fell through the cracks. The vast majority of businesses were covered.
Yep.
So this is businesses, limited companies, but also the self-employed. We had schemes for both those things, and COVID loans and furlough schemes and grants and all kinds of things. But it's true that some businesses that had a high dependency on dividends in terms of paying themselves it was very difficult to say to people, well, what's profit and what's salary? Yeah. So a line was drawn, and I know some people got hurt by that. Yeah. And
Kevin, ours was more to do with, for example, we're a 24-hour radio station.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have license conditions, for example, that you have to stay on air. We can't just close up shop and say we're not going to go on air. Okay. Then the furlough doesn't kick in. None of the elements kick in, but the advertising disappears. Anyway, like I said, we were a unique service, and we're here to tell the tale. And I'm always been a great believer. I have faith. I'm a man of faith, and I'm always a great believer. You keep at it. You do your best. And what we did do as a radio station, we did a lot of charity work. We helped a lot of charities.
Good for you.
Right? Okay. Because my view was, if something does happen to us, we're not here next week or the next month or 6 months down the road, I'm not going to let that airtime go, which I'm paying for, go without good cause and good purpose. Absolutely. So we did other stuff with it. But I just wanted to give you the opportunity to actually speak about that. The follow-up question to that would be, Kevin, is what about the current government? This conversation is more to do with the Conservative Party and what you are, but I think it just lends in quite comfortably into asking that question. Why are they doing what they're doing? Why are they increasing the tax burden and increasing the welfare state? Like you said, you had a tough time in the early 90s. You just lost your job, but you went out and got another job. Are we incentivizing people to go out and work? No. Does work pay?
No, they're not. They're doing all the wrong things. I mean, the reason they're doing those things is they don't understand how the system works. They always do it. Labour always put taxes up and always increase unemployment. That's a statistical fact. But also, they just don't understand what they are doing, don't know how the system works. So, luckily, in our shadow cabinet, for example, I've started a bit and built the business. James Cartledge, Shadow Defence Secretary, done the same. You've seen Chris Philp done the same, Mel Stride done the same. These are people in top positions within the Shadow Cabinet, all have started and scaled businesses. You've got Priti Patel from a business background, family business background. So we understand how the system works and what the order of priorities needs to be. And you need to, if you're going to want to generate the tax receipts that pay for everything else, as I said before, the strong horse, you've got to look after it. You've got to feed it properly, look after it, nurture it, not simply pretend it's a cow, you can milk it. Now, what Labour are doing is they're trying to milk the cow. I don't think they want to shoot the tiger, but I think they want to milk the cow.
Yeah.
And they see it as just an opportunity to take what they want from business and think it will have an impact. And it does. You've seen unemployment increase. It was just over 4% when they took over. It's now 5.2% unemployment. That's hundreds of thousands of people are now out of work. Crucially, business confidence, when they took over, July 24, according to the Institute of Directors, business confidence was at +5, which is quite a high reading. Today, it is -63. It's the bigger fall in business confidence than COVID, because two things: A, they're taxing the living daylights out of business and pretend they're not, but they are. But also the instability, the constant changing and moving the goalposts. That unsettles businesses. Businesses actually only want two very simple things. They want a fair and level playing field to trade upon, and they want stability. That's what they want. And then they want the government to keep out of the way.
Yeah.
And the government's doing none of those things. Yeah. It's meddling around. It's doing some horrendous things, putting taxes up. Now 38% of GDP. It's a record high outside wartime. But also now about to tie businesses in red tape. The Employment Rights Bill, which really disincentivises business, particularly small businesses, which is should always be our priority, from taking anybody on. And that's really bad, because disproportionately high number of people, young people, get jobs in smaller businesses. They're much more effective at doing that because they give people a chance. Yeah. So they just don't understand it. That's their biggest problem, and their basic philosophy is flawed. So they're now stuck in a doom loop where they increase taxes into the rate of it. Actually will mean, because you're deterring businesses from investing, as they are, then you actually get less tax receipts over time, which means you have to put taxes up again. This is the doom loop they're in. Yeah. And a good example is the family farm tax and the family business tax, which affects people who've started and build a business, want to pass it on to the next generation. They've hit those businesses. Last year, where they've hit the farms and family businesses of all types, but the farms particularly, easy to see the impact, because it's the worst year for tractor sales on record. So it's not just taxing a few rich farmers as they see it, it's hitting the whole supply chain. Yeah. And you do that, and of course the supply chain now starts to make redundancies. Yeah. And they're not making the profit for them to invest in their businesses and produce revenue for the taxman. All that kind of stuff. So it has this doom loop downward spiral effect, and that's where we are now.
Okay. Kevin, we also seem to be living in extremely divisive political landscapes across the world, not just in the United Kingdom. And the easy target and the scapegoat seems to be immigration. Right? As an onlooker, we have many problems. There's always challenges. We have a huge welfare state, high tax, low growth economy, and a wonderful institution called the NHS, but it needs to be more efficiently run, potentially. Law and order issues, defence issues. People are wondering, do we have enough to protect ourselves with now what's also going on in the Middle East? But everything from not enough jobs, not enough money, not enough hospital appointments, not enough school places seem to be laid at the door of immigration, right? And my point I want to make clear to viewers is there's different layers of immigration. There's illegal immigration, when people are coming across in boats and claiming asylum. Mm-hmm. So that's one type. So they haven't gone through a process. They haven't asked anybody's permission. Can they come over? They've just made their way over. Mm-hmm. And then you've got immigration that the country needs. And all countries need immigration. I know that, in the 50s and 60s, when my grandparents and my parents came to this country, the United Kingdom welcomed them here to do a job that the country needed them to do, and they came here to do. And then, there's been immigrants from the South Asian subcontinent over recent years who haven't been just economic immigrants, but they've been, doctors, nurses, IT specialists, in so many different sectors. But everything seems to be fear politics. What's the Conservative Party's view on immigration, and not only your view, but what I think is happening with the divisiveness with other parties which have popped up over the last few years, and their only thing is it's okay, Tony, it's not your fault. It's you haven't got a job, or you haven't got the latest new car, or being able to go on a holiday, take your family on holiday because of the immigrants. They don't seem to have any policies, and that scares me witless, Kevin. And as a British Asian, I just want to give you another anecdote that my, like you said, your father was a milkman, and so I didn't catch what you said your mother did. Social worker. I grew up in a single parent family. My mother worked in a pie factory, and she used to do an 8-hour shift, and she used to love it if she got a double shift, and she could put some more food on the table and provide better for her kids. And I still remember in the 80s walking down the street in Medway in Kent, and some of the abuse that we used to get. She used to wear an Indian outfit, so Welcomees, and then they'll be singing baggy trousers to us. I was just a little kid, so I wasn't able to defend my mum, and I was just scared. But all of that seemed to, get better over the years, and didn't really have, and it has got better. It never disappears. There's always prejudice. There's always, issues, but nowhere as rife as it used to be when I was a young kid growing up. But the last 20, 30 years have been good. But it just feels that we're going backwards towards that, where communities are being divided again. So I just wanted to know what the Conservative Party, as the chairman, what their views are on this, on immigration, and also the other parties, which are they there just dividing communities?
Well, listen, the debate on immigration, there's no way in the world that needs to be conflated with skin colour. That's not what it's about. Racism is a nonsense. It's immoral, it's illogical. Nobody should confuse the two. And I know that maybe some of the party leaders are not directly campaigning on a racist ticket, but never a lot of their supporters, a number of their supporters, you see some of the comments. I see some of the comments online that I get about my colleagues like Saki Bhatti or Benabis Chekti, people from ethnic minorities, and they get horrendous racial abuse. And supposedly in the name and the sports of some of those other parties. So I think that is totally wrong. That is the confusion. That people using it as an opportunity to think this is somehow about being a totally white nation or something. That's completely wrong. I say illogical, immoral. Now, but it is perfectly reasonable though to want to control migration. Perfectly reasonable. And people of all different communities think that's the right thing to do. Generally, think that's the right thing to do. Those are the really wacky ones, maybe on the far left or something. They should have open borders, which is also crazy. So, and you mentioned illegal migration, and that's a good example of how we're not controlling our own borders, and we need to be able to. We should be able to decide who comes to this country and who does not.
Yep.
So we tried to deal with that through the Rwanda legislation. We got blocked at every turn, and now we've got a new policy now to do that, but also to come out the European Convention on Human Rights to make sure we can control our borders. I think that's absolutely the right thing, and Kemi's clear on that. But also legal migration we need to control as well. It's been too high, particularly over the post-COVID period. We're too high, and we need to get that down to much lower levels. But still, as you say, make sure we can select people we need for our economy, be it doctors, be it scientists, be it entrepreneurs that are welcome in this country because they're going to add value to our economy. which it should be. So that's how we do it. We manage migration. We decide, we control it, and we set out before the public. These are the numbers we think it should be to fulfil the needs of the economy and make sure we can properly staff our public services. But one thing I would say to people, if they are at all concerned that we as a party, in terms of believe in equality, bit of whatever your racial background. I mean, look, who's our leader? Kevin Hollinrake, black leader of our party. Previous leader, Rishi Sunak. Home Secretary, Foreign Secretary now, Priti Patel. James Cleverly, who's Shadow Housing Secretary, former Home Secretary and Foreign Secretary. The fundamental as the Conservative Party is we believe in equal opportunity, regardless of your gender, sexuality, racial background. We don't give it we don't give two stuffs about that. But nor do we set quotas for who we want or who we don't want. And that's the most successful thing you can do, because then you get more women leaders. We've had 4 of them, including 3 prime ministers, female prime ministers, of course, and say a very good record in terms of people from an ethnic minority background. And that should give people all the reassurance they want. With the Conservative, it doesn't matter about your demographics. What matters is how hard you're going to work, are you going to take responsibility for your actions, and we'll help to give you the opportunities that can fulfil your dreams.
No, and I think you've hit the nail on the head, and I think the viewers and the listeners, I think, also going to be also one of my follow-on questions in regards to the Conservative Party. People will think left and right. Left means you're very liberal and you want to hug and welcome everybody, and the Conservative Party is quite a stiff British, on the right of politics. But the statistics and the story of the Conservative Party tell you a very different story, right? The only party that has had 3 female prime ministers, any prime ministers, right, has had a British Asian prime minister.
Absolutely.
Secretaries of state of colour, Chancellor of the Exchequer, Home Secretary, Foreign Secretary.
Absolutely.
There's been a number of different people. Now with Kemi Badenoch as leader of the opposition. Why do people level that about the Conservative Party when the facts tell you that's just not the case?
It's usually levelled by people who trying to undermine us. You understand politics is an adversarial world, so people are going to jump to all kinds of ways to undermine the Conservative message. Fundamentally, it is about equal opportunity. That's what I believe the Conservative Party to be. I come from a pretty humble background in terms of my parents, and lots of other people have too. And I go out campaigning every day with people who have just worked hard to make something of themselves and believe the Conservative Party enables that, facilitates that. So I don't think anybody who joins our party, anybody who meets other members of the Conservative Party, will be left under the impression that this is somehow a party of privilege, which I know some people think it is. And maybe hundreds of years in the past, maybe that was the case. But you look at all the people, look at Margaret Thatcher, grocer's daughter. Yeah. Look at Rishi, son of a GP and a pharmacist.
Yeah.
We've Priti Patel, who's daughter of a newsagent. Yeah. All the people that we have. Almost exclusively, I think, are people who've just worked hard and gone on. That's what Conservative Party is all about. Yeah. If you work hard and ask for nothing, is my kind of. I was always told, plenty of worse off for you. Look inwards, look at yourself. We have got, as individuals, most of us have the potential to make a real success of our life.
Yeah.
And we should enable that rather than simply trying to get state to do it for them.
Yeah.
But we all know, of course, there needs to be a safety net for people who cannot.
Yeah.
And that's what we've got too. We totally believe in that. We believe in NHS free at the point of delivery. We believe in the fact there should be a welfare state for people who can't work. But equally well, we do believe if you can work, you should.
Yeah. Kevin, do you think the electorate is feeling, I don't know if the right term is feeling sorry for itself, and when you've got Reform or the Green Party or even the Labour Party and the Lib Dems, particularly I think the Reform Party and potentially the Greens, saying to people, it's not your fault. It's the current government and the previous government's fault, and they're levelling it, whether it be immigration, not immigration, or one other, just one particular topic, and just saying to people, it's just not your fault, and it's just the old status quo of the Labour and the Conservative Party, so you need to give one of us a chance and an opportunity. To me, I'm not a political expert, but I have a view and opinion. To me, if I look at it, 650 members of parliament, where those other votes for those other parties would come for. If there was a general election tomorrow, if I was a betting man, I would say it'd probably be a hung parliament potentially. Are we coming up to a period of coalition governments potentially?
Well, I hope not, because I think it's best to have a decisive result, and then we can, hopefully, the party people choose can go out and govern and fix some problems, because they do need fixing. Listen, I get the fact that it's been a turbulent time, economically and politically. And at those kind of times, people think, well, a plague upon all your houses, let's try something completely different. I get that completely. I would point to people, well, that's what you tried in 2024. Of course, we're not the Conservatives, therefore let's vote for anything else, and it's got most people think it's got much worse since. So, listen, over the last 14 years, we get it all the time, 14 years of failure. We did some fantastic things in 14 years, but we made some mistakes. Yeah. And we're getting punished for mistakes. In politics in the UK, we don't have term limits like they do in the US, like presidential term limits. They do currently anyway. But we do have sell-by dates, and we were past our sell-by date. We'd made, we'd help the economy through the financial crisis and through COVID, and we'd turned our education standards round and cut street crime by 50%, and supported Ukraine through those difficult moments, even when the civil service was saying don't do that. I think if it hadn't been a Conservative government at that time, you'd have seen Putin walk straight into Ukraine, and that he would have captured the whole of that nation and been on looking at where his next step is. Instead, we stepped in and brought the world with us in terms of supporting. So we did some very good things. We messed up on migration when we had their levers. With some things went wrong in terms of welfare and in terms of the psychodrama we had within party, all that kind of stuff. So we made our mistakes. So we hold our hands up. But one thing I'd say to people, the easiest job in the world is to stand on the sidelines and criticise. So you get some of the other leaders say, oh my God, it would be wonderful if we were just running things instead of those, the Conservatives or Labour or whatever. Well, okay, but now you've got a chance, haven't you? So I'd say to people, well, look at the performance of the councils or the mayors that they've already won. Reform, let's talk about reform. So Nigel Farage said, I'm going to improve service. We're going to run on last May. We're going to win. We're going to run the council campaign, and we're going to improve services, and we're going to cut your council tax because the Conservatives are just rubbish or Labour is just rubbish. We can do that. Well, they've taken over those councils, like in Kent, like in Worcester, like in Staffordshire, where the council tax cuts. Worcester's going up by 10%. So it is a nonsense to say somehow they've got this magic formula, they can solve all these problems. It's just because we're rubbish. So basically you judge people by their actions, not by their words. And so we need to learn the lessons of the past. I think we have done in Chemi. We weren't always as conservative as we should have been. We made some fundamental mistakes, but we have a great leader, an excellent leader. We have an excellent team of people, experienced team of people, and we have the policies. You can go on policy.conservatives.com, you can see them all there. I will cut stamp duty, which will really help small businesses like joiners and people who sell white goods and fit carpets, that kind of stuff, really good. And the people getting on the housing ladder. We'll scrap business rates. They'll say businesses up to 50,000 quid a year. So a big benefit there. All these
when
things.
When you say scrap business rates, is that for all businesses?
It's your business rates up to a rateable value of £110,000. When you add in the multiplier, anybody who's paying less than £50,000 a year, or 50 or less, won't pay anything.
Yeah.
But above that, you'll start to pay. So the vast majority of businesses
fall
won't pay
under.
any. Cheap power plan, take 20% off your electricity charges, that kind of stuff. So lots of things we are doing to help businesses. We know that's where our focus needs to be, because that generates the productive economy, pushes the productive economy forward. So yes, I can see why people are attracted by something. I can fix all these problems, but governing is more difficult than people think. And I think you've seen these parties now who are controlling stuff. They're not delivering on their promises. But I think we will, because we've got the right leader, the right team, and the right plan.
Coming on to your leader of the party, Kemi Badenoch, she seems to have had a push through for a moment. A lot of people say she might have had a slow start. She would have had a strategy towards that, no doubt. I've been lucky enough to have a couple of conversations over the last couple of years with Kemi, and she always impressed me. And my view when in the early days when I was seeing her at the dispatch box, I was thinking, come on, Kemi, show them what you got, because I know she's quick, she's quite sharp-witted. She has that about her. I think since the autumn budget, we've seen that Kemi Badenoch, the British public have seen that Kemi Badenoch really hold the government to account. I don't know if it was because, getting into a new role, 14 years of Conservative power, people could keep, and people could say, you've had your turn, just waiting a time. What took a little bit longer to get into a groove? And secondly, in the polls, if I'm correct, in terms of leadership against the Farages, the Starmers, the Davies, the Polanskis, she seems to be doing quite well. And, in some of the polls, from what I can see, she's coming ahead of those guys. Yeah. Where will that correlate with the fortunes of the polling of the Conservative Party?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. Kemi's only been in Parliament since 2017. So 7 years in, you suddenly take the biggest job in politics, the toughest job in politics. More tougher than being a Prime Minister, being leader of the opposition. So, of course, it takes a while to get into your groove. I think that's fair to say. But the other thing Kemi did, she took the most difficult line in terms of how you are as an opposition leader. The tempting thing is to come out and announce all your policies right up front. We're going to do all these things. We're going to promise all this, promise all that. Kemi's not going to do that. She recognised the fact. So we had lost one of the most important components of politics, which is trust. Yep. So the best way to re-establish the trust is to work your policies through before you announce them. Doesn't sound too radical from a business perspective, but in politics it doesn't always work that way. Yep. So she took the time, developed the policies, and then really the first big policy announcements was a conference last year. And you say now she's starting to find a moment, cut through, that kind of stuff, and that's exactly what we're seeing. So conference last year, that wonderful speech you made there about stamp duty and business rates, ECHR, European Convention on Human Rights, and controlling migration. Also a budget response that was, but it was witty, it was insightful, it was cutting, and then the weekly performances at the dispatch box and the set piece moments, and she's really cutting through. And you're right to say now, if you looked on a head-to-head basis, she beats Farage, she beats Starmer, she beats Polanski, all the other leaders. So critically, that's very important. We're most trusted on the economy again, the party, the most trusted party on the economy, which is quite an achievement given where we were. Yeah. Most trusted party by business again. And I'll tell you something else that sounds a bit like we're damning ourselves with faint praise, but the Conservative Party, for the first time ever, are the least hated political party in the country. Now, that might not sound like a badge of honour, but it's really important, because if you see what's happening now, you mentioned before about all these different parties that are popping up. It used to be a two-party system, but tactical voting is with us and it's here to stay. Yeah. So if you look what happened at the by-election in Gorton and Denton recently, the polls are way off. Had all the main three protagonists, Labour, Reform, and the Greens, all level pegging about 27, 28 points. Greens got over 40. Yeah. Reform got 28. Labour got 25, because a lot of people voted for Greens to keep reform out.
Yeah.
Now, the most hated parties in the country, I mean, some people really like them, but other people don't, are Labour and Reform. So their trouble is, I think, they will underperform when you get to elections, because people will not just vote for who they want for these days, they'll vote against the party that they don't want in. And that's difficult to factor into opinion polls. So you've seen, even on the top line in opinion polls now, we were about 14 points behind Reform.
Yes.
We're now about 7 points behind Reform, if you look at the gap now.
Yeah.
So we're closing that gap. So yes, Kemi's more popular than the party now. It's true to say that, but the party itself over time will catch up as people connect Kemi with the Conservative Party. So we're not where we need to be, but I'm pleased where we are, as long as the direction of travel continues, which I think it will.
Okay. The upper chamber. A lot of people say it's old boys network, or there's quite a lot of late baronesses in the upper chamber as well. So I'm not sure using the word old boys network is probably correct. People say it's an unelected chamber. I've always had a view on it that you've got one elected chamber. The House of Lords, majority of the people I've met in the House of Lords are people who give a great contribution, have already given their contribution to this country in one way or another through business, science, or many different kinds of expertise and field that they're in. And I think having them unelected and appointing them based on their merit and their expertise gives good checks and balances. I know it always gets levelled at whichever party is in power, because they get to appoint more people to the House of Lords of cronyism. What's your view about the upper chamber?
Well, the most important thing I say about the House of Lords, people should understand, it does not write legislation.
Yeah.
So it's a refining chamber. So the legislation is all created by the government of the day, the elected government of the day. It's passed the House of Lords. Normally that's the way around.
Yep.
Commons first, then the House of Lords. House of Lords looks at it and makes some changes to it. So it plays a different role from lots of other legislators around the country. And so it's really important you do have people who have real expertise in various different subjects, because what the Lords are better at than the Commons, rightly or wrongly, but they is better at detailed scrutiny of legislation and looking in detail at various different clauses. So they generally make some sensible suggestions about how you'd improve legislation. So I get the point people make of these unelected House, and it can be, it can be accused of cronyism, and I get that completely. And I'm not saying it's the ideal system, but everybody who's tried to change it has backed off in the end. You remember Keir Starmer said he's going to make it a completely elected House? Where's that gone? Because he decided not to do it. It's more difficult than you think to completely change it, because it does have some plus points, as we just set out. So, and you pointed out too, and how you'd persuade, really reputable, high quality people in the legal profession or the medical profession or business to take that route and get elected. That's really the greasy pole, and a lot of people just wouldn't bother because it's not everybody's cup of tea. So Lord Sugar there is in the House of Commons, the House of Lords, of course. Would he honestly stand for Parliament? I don't think he would. So I mean, you have some fantastic Lord Winston, people who are eminent scientists and people medical profession. So would those people do it? I don't think they would. So I think I'm happy always to look at how we might reform things to improve them. And what Labour decided to do is get rid of the hereditary peers, and you can argue that one way or the other. But my view, generally, you're better reforming a system. Reform, wrong kind of word actually. What we use reform. We'll say evolution is better than revolution. Just changing things, incremental improvements tends to bring about better results in terms of outcomes than completely changing the system completely.
No, I agree. And when I think of a British Asian peer, I think of Lord Cowan-Moria.
Yes, exactly.
Great entrepreneur, great for
Fantastic.
business. He was head of the CBI, Chancellor
Great example.
of Birmingham University. And he's somebody I look up to as a British Asian businessman running business in this country. And then you've got people like Baroness Verma, Sandy Verma,
Yeah.
in Leicester, always out there fighting the good fight,
Yeah.
and doing a bit. So no, I totally concur with you on your point of the House of Lords. A couple of points before we wrap up, Kevin, is the Middle East crisis is going on, the war is going on. Where do you think, what is your view from a conservative perspective, and where do you think Starmer has been correct or maybe incorrect or maybe indecisive or too decisive in one way or the other? And I know, if we're to be totally fair and frank about it, we're probably dealing with one of the most complex presidents in the history of the United States. So you never know which way it can go. I remember listening to one of his speeches, his press conferences the other day, and he's saying how good the new Venezuelan government is doing because they're listening to him. But if they weren't listening to him, they wouldn't be doing all that, doing good at all. So, you have to smile and laugh about it, but it's almost not funny. But what's the view of the Conservative Party, and how do you think the government's handled the crisis so far?
Okay, well, I think our view on the situation is similar to everybody else's in this context. Nobody's a fan at all of the Iranian regime and how they treat their own people. Tens of thousands of people brutally murdered in the recent protests. Just shocking what happens, and some of the way they treat their own people, even outside those kind of things. I saw a young 60-year-old girl who had been raped, who was hung for last year. Terrible things. And a regime that's a sworn enemy and wants to obliterate Israel, of course. Totally wrong. It's an evil regime. That's not what we want to see in terms of if we want to see a peaceful future in the Middle East and the rest of the world. It affects all of us. Where do I think Keir Starmer's go wrong? And I think this will switch into what we believe that the right thing to do would have been. The most important ally we have, any part of the world, is the US. Despite the fact we've got a president that's not always consistent about what he does or says, which he makes a virtue of in his own mind. So should we have least said to the US, you can use your own bases that we jointly fund and operate with you, be it Diego Garcia or be it in the UK. I think it's totally wrong they would exclude the US from taking action. It felt appropriate. And clearly there's opposition, and we're opposition. We don't get to see the detailed security advice or the detailed plans the US have in terms of A, the action, and B, the exit strategy. We think everybody's keen to see. We don't see that. So our default position, we should support our allies. And that's our clear position, our allies in terms of the US and Israel and in the Middle East, in Bahrain and United Arab Emirates and other actors in the region. Those are the ones we should support and defend. So I think Keir Starmer was too slow in doing that. Ultimately, he has allowed the US to use these bases. But we also feel, of course, that if somebody's attacking us, as they were, you saw a drone hit our base in Cyprus,
Yes.
Arif Akatiri, and the fact we haven't reacted in terms of finding out where that drone came from and hitting that particular the source of that drone, I think is weak and wrong. And I think, so in a nutshell, that's what I think Keir Starmer's been. I'm not saying we should have definitely joined in the action from the US from day one. Without seeing the information, you can't make that take that position. But I think in terms of being able to defend ourselves against attack, I think we've got to be very forthright in terms of things like that.
I think also in conversations that I have with friends group and you hear people talking about, Kevin, I think that's, you hit the nail on the head, so to speak, that one of our bases was attacked by a drone. We haven't, there's been no action, rearguard action back. And all I keep thinking about is we've got this warship still sitting in Portsmouth.
It's embarrassing.
If somebody were to attack us, are we going to say, hang on a minute, we're not ready yet? Is that the situation the United Kingdom are really in?
Yeah, and I think...
Because if it is, it's worrying, isn't it?
Oh my God. I mean, do you remember the old song, Rule Britannia? Britannia
Yes.
rules the waves.
Yeah.
We're not exactly there right now, are we? And don't get me wrong, you could easily look back now and say we should have spent more on defence over the last 20 years or 14 years we were in office. Well, we did always spend the NATO minimum, which is 2% of GDP, and we always spent that. But you can easily say now we should have stepped that up sooner. But I heard Ben Wallace, the former Defence Secretary, Conservative Defence Secretary, on the radio this morning. He said he always had boats, our Navy, on patrol in the Middle East. Always had that. And for some reason that stopped. And always also had missile capability in that region too. And for some reason that's not been there. So, I don't understand why that's not the case. And but we live in a different world now, both in terms of Russia's actions, potential other actors that are against our interests, like China, and indeed in things like Iran, who have this axis between them, Iran and Russia, of course, and to some extent China. We know we've got to spend more on defence and make sure that it's properly purposed to make sure we have the capability to fight back, certainly in a defensive position that we're in today, against actors that are determined to strike at our assets in the region. So no, I think it's embarrassing, the fact we've got a boat sat in Portsmouth that's waiting to sail to the Middle East, and it's going to take at least another week to get there. I think it doesn't speak to a strong nation with a strong a strong defence, with it Navy or Army or RAF. So we've got to do more, and we've got to spend more, and I think there is a received wisdom across the piece that we should do that. We think the government should spend 3% of GDP on defence by the end of this parliament. They haven't committed to do that yet. That's our clear policy, and that will mean more ships, more personnel, more high-tech stuff. Drones are here to stay as well. So we need to be at the forefront of that. And one of the advantages we've got for what's happened in Ukraine, because we work very closely with them, of course, is to share their learnings in modern warfare and how we spend that money wisely to get the most bang for our buck.
Okay. Thank you for the conversation. And it feels, even though I want to try to keep it as light as we possibly can, but when you're in the world of politics, I guess things do get a bit heavy in a conversation. And stating and sharing quite openly, Kevin, which I really greatly appreciate, and I'm sure our viewers and listeners will, answering things, in a very flowing and open manner about the Conservative Party and what it stands for today, and and for the future. And you're quite positive about that. We're going to have a bit of fun at the end. I'm not going to try to embarrass you. Quick fire round. This podcast I've launched is called the Sunrise Corner Shop. Sunrise is the name of the radio station that my business has been built on the last 36 years. And I thought, let's call it the Corner Shop, because the British Asian community, when it came here, its first foray into entrepreneurship in the United Kingdom was the Asian Corner Shop.
Yeah.
So hence why
Brilliant.
I thought we'd call it the Sunrise Corner Shop. So I just want to ask you, one word, 2 word sentence answers. Favourite Hollywood film?
Favourite Hollywood film? Well, my favourite film is It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, there you go. Great choice. Do you have a favourite song or singer?
Luke Combs, Where the Wild Things Are, is my favourite song of his.
Okay. A favourite sports team? Rugby, cricket,
Oh
football?
my God! Well, definitely 2003. Johnny Wilkinson drop goal against Australia, win the World Cup, Rugby World Cup.
That I always remember that World Cup final when the Australian Prime Minister of that time, trying to remember the chap's name, he almost begrudgingly gave it, handed it over.
Well, Australians don't like to lose.
No,
do
they don't. Favourite holiday destination?
Okay, so well, I'll give you two. Portugal, we go to Valdelobos in Portugal, which is lovely, and but also a little village in the Alps called Cormeo. We go skiing there. Wonderful. It's an Italian place with the best restaurants on the mountain you'll ever eat in.
Sounds lovely.
And not expensive. And not expensive.
I'm not sure if you are a fan of this, but favourite Indian meal or dish?
Oh my God, king prawn jalfrezi.
You can't go wrong with that. If you could do anything or be anyone for a day, what would that be? I would be Rory McIlroy playing golf at the Masters in the final round and winning. Well, like you did recently.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Growing up, what was your favourite corner shop chocolate treat?
A favourite corner shop chocolate would probably be what was called back then a marathon.
Yep.
And now it's a Snickers bar, I think.
There you go. So we have got. Hopefully, we've got a marathon. We've got Snickers there.
There it is.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
I'll eat that with my cup of tea in a minute. Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Welcome to the corner shop.
Brilliant.
And
nice
it was lovely to have you here with us today, and really helpful with your insightful views and what a party chairman or a major party does.
Great to talk to you, Tony. Thank you very much.
Kevin.
Cheers.
The app available from the App and Play Store.